Good morning, Dr. Herrington. Thank you so much for participating in the community interview with me this morning. And for the community, today I'm speaking with Sonoma County Superintendent Dr. Stephen Herrington. Dr. Herrington provides leadership, support, and of course, state-designated fiscal and program oversight for our 40-plus school districts. We have more than that. I'm going to welcome and introduce him and have him give you a little bit more information about what the Sonoma County Office of Education does and the support they provide to school districts throughout the county. Welcome, Dr. Herrington, and thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome, and it's a privilege to be here. Let me tell you a little bit about what I do. County Superintendent of Schools is a state constitutional officer. They're elected every 4 years. When you go into your ballot, you vote for the state superintendent of instruction, and then you vote for the county superintendent of instruction or county superintendent of schools. We are charged as part of the executive branch to administer and monitor districts as it relates to the financial disbursement of funds. And we disperse in this county about $1.2 billion a year amongst the different districts. There are 40 school districts, but there are also 56 charters, and charters are independent like school districts. So that's who we monitor and assist. We do not have student responsibilities directly, and we don't have procedural policy responsibilities for district operations. Parents often come to us thinking that we can overturn a district decision, which we can't. We can only intervene as it relates to financial stability of a district. We have done that in the recession of 2007 5 times, where we intervened and became basically the state trustee over district expenses. As we get into this interview, we'll talk about this projected recession depression and what that might look like for schools. That's when this office is most noted, is when it's in an economic condition. We also provide support to the County Board of Supervisors. We provide instructional support for the Moonell Hall Justice Center, probation camp, and the jail. So any adult trying to get an education. So we are a resource because every child in California is entitled to free and public education. So that's an overview of what we do. County board is elected separately from the county superintendent, and they are a quasi-judicial body which they deal with the county schools and the probation camps. Those are their programs, alternative ed. But they also are a hearing officer as it relates to disputes between districts on inter-district transfers and suspension appeals. They're part of the due process review. So we have different functions, and we also collaborate on county programs.
And I'm delighted that you talked about the directly elected board of trustees. How many trustees serve on your board?
There are 5 trustees. A few years back in 2010, county grand jury made the recommendation to consolidate from 7 to 5 and to run them contiguous to the board of supervisor areas. So we have 5 trustees now because the community supported that action and the State Board of Education approved that action. And we have 5 trustees, 1 for each area supervisor, and they represent the constituent school districts in that area.
Our community is really struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic, but parents, most of all, are scratching their heads, sometimes pulling out their hair, sometimes trying to expel their children from the home classrooms.
We don't take those appeals.
And we have incredible respect for what you and our teachers do in the classrooms. So tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 pandemic has affected schools throughout the county.
Well, first of all, I think people need to know we didn't plan for this, and it occurred that schools would not open, and that announcement was made during spring break. So during spring break, we had approximately, districts in this county had approximately 1 week to convert to distance learning. They weren't prepped for it. They didn't have the materials or resources for it. but that's what the expectation was within 1 week. And so we've gotten stronger with it, but it was a major conversion. Someone asked me, I think it was NPR asked me the other day, what's the benefit? Well, I'll tell you, the benefit is it's actually forced teachers to go into the technology and can make their lessons a little more contemporary with the interfacing of technology. That's the benefit. The downside is that human contact, that interface, that collegiality between peers, that mentorship between students and, in fact, and teacher. That's what's missing, because the screen doesn't generate the warmth and compassion to be exhibited in a classroom. So that's what we've done. And I would look at some of my notes and say that we had some exceptional teachers. We have basically Ryan Kurata, who's a teacher in Cotati Park. He does his lessons every day for kindergarten in character for little ones, and he hasn't changed his lesson plan. It's just he set up a whole studio in his garage. We have another special education teacher that's a SCO teacher who's going around and making home visits, not with the students directly, but leaving equipment for children, providing them the resources. And that is Nikki Thompson. Those type of extended activities is above and beyond the call of what we ask. And just to be a teacher, to me, is very important. To me, I believe it's a calling, it's a conviction, it's a dedication. This is my 48th year in education, and 38th as a superintendent. And I really enjoy every day of work, and I enjoy what we do, because I think it has a long-term impact on the next generation of Americans. And so that's where we're focused on. We want to get through this. I think families are resilient. I mean, look at us. We've been through 2 fires and a flood. PSPSs. We've had air quality closures. Yesterday was a Senate hearing in which our bill, SB 884 by Senator Dodd, was heard about allowing school districts to offer summer school if they've been in a catastrophic event and lost more than 5 days of instruction. Well, we certainly have been there, and our concern was because schools collectively, all 40 districts, have lost over 800 days of instruction over 3 years.
As a former school board member, I think that number is truly staggering and gives me pause about what this generation of students are learning currently, despite the great imagination, creativity of teachers and wonderful parents that are filling in some of the gaps on educational learning. I think it does mean that many of our students will be missing important lessons in the academics as we move forward. But let's talk about some of the challenges that families have. I know that schools have been very good about issuing Chromebooks and other devices to students, but families are struggling, and we knew before the COVID-19 pandemic that we had a digital divide in Sonoma County with lack of cell service, lack of broadband, and certainly Wi-Fi connectivity to many students and geographical areas. How are you overcoming that?
We are working with, in fact, I don't know if you, the Press Democrat, Mark Katroki of Katroki Architects, donated over $300,000 of hotspots. The community is coming forward. They're bringing forth ideas like that. We have worked with our providers to expand services. There are some, if you go to scoe.org and look at our website, we have contacts for parents to get free services. That's been beneficial. If you don't have connectivity, if you're in a dark spot, as we call it, we have to continue to work with our federal legislators to get more connectivity. And that's very true on the coast. And there are pockets of Sonoma Valley that you are very much aware of.
Yes.
That the mountain range blocks signals. And so we have to deal with that. So the offset is that many school districts are developing combined distance learning and good old paper and pencil packets of information that to continue to move the instructional program. But it is challenging. And I would want to say to parents that they shouldn't expect the 6-hour days of instruction with their child. We realize that it might be in spurts and it could go throughout the day because a child can only take so much visual time. I know I can only do so many Zoom meetings and not lose focus. So it's important that parents be flexible with their children and to be adaptable. And we have to model adaptability and flexibility and have that interactive time with kids. Remember, they don't have recess, so parents can have that interactive time with their children. But we're not expecting parents to do a 6-hour lesson with children or 6-hour lesson school content. We're expecting it to be broken up. And most districts have reemphasized that. The grading has changed for this purpose so as not to make those demands any greater than they are.
And good news today, we're opening up our parks further so that you are able to drive into parks. We're not totally opening our beaches yet. And we're sadly, for parents of young children, not opening up the playground equipment yet, but we will get there. I think parents absolutely needed that relief to take their children to the park and let them run and jump and fly kites and puddle jump.
Right. And parents need to know that school playgrounds are closed as well. And the same reason, it's because of the big toy apparatus and the passing of germs on that apparatus. Kids are little bug carriers. And so we have to keep those things restricted to parents. But I'm sure that it eventually will start to open up the fields and the tracks for runners to get that type of energy burn off.
Speaking of opening up, Governor Newsom announced that schools might be able to open in July or potentially August. What say you? Are we going to open the schools during the summer or at least in the fall?
Governor, that was his aspiration, I believe. The reality is, why would we open 2 weeks before we're regularly scheduled to open? It doesn't make sense. We don't have the resources to do that anyway. But what I will tell you is that we have a planning committee. It consists of myself and 4 designated superintendents that working with the county health director and the county health department. And we are looking at the reopening of schools and what that might look like. And what that looks like right now during stage 2 is we're still doing distance learning. If in July and August we're in stage 3, we'll still probably be on distance learning for some of that. If we're in stage 4 activities or the beginning of stage 4 activities, we'll look at that a little differently because that's back to normal, supposedly. What is the new normal? We'll have to define that. But right now we are looking at different types and varieties of starts with the county health director and the county health officer, and we're looking at what that might be. And so that committee will meet with them monthly as we get progressively closer to the opening of school. So the plan we talk about today may be different than the plan we actually implement because the conditions may change. And we understand that she will be monitoring us as it relates to the COVID-19 facts and figures she has ahead of her. So if those facts and figures are positive, we can get to normal as close as we can. But we have to do tracking groups. Well, that's going to be very difficult in a school setting. How do you keep your groups together for tracking purposes? And so that will be something we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to look at that. And riding a bus is another issue.
Yeah. We thank Dr. Mace for keeping our community as safe as possible, but it is alarming to me that we are seeing a spike in the number of COVID cases among our minors. And I think that must be especially worrisome for you for the future as we move forward into reopening. So what does going back to school look like? You really just described it, but the governor announced a historic budget impact. And I recognize that the impact of the declining revenues, precipitatingly declining revenues, will mean grave things happening for our schools. So tell us a little bit about how you are aiding and helping to navigate the finances for school districts across the county?
Well, first of all, we've had 3 major countywide webinars, one sponsored by the County Superintendent of Schools for district superintendents and board members and chief business officers, letting them know what the future might look like for them. The other one we hosted with our own consultants from Sacramento, and they are addressing that, what it might look like long term. That's a $54 billion deficit. Now, in 2008 and 9, we faced a $24 billion state deficit, and schools took a lot of hits. It took us 10 years to recover because we lost 24% of our funding revenue, and it was paid back to us over a period of 10 years. We don't know what our loss of revenue is going to be now, and you and I know that school districts get funded off of property tax, and they are funded off of the state income tax. Well, if state income tax is looking at a 30% loss of labor, 30% unemployment, that's going to impact schools dramatically. So we have prepared districts that they should expect at least a 15 to 20% reduction in their revenue. Now, you being a former school board member, which you know that 90% of every school district operating budget is personnel driven. So to cut for 20% means you're going to have to let go of personnel. That's a sad situation to be in right now when we need to reconnect with our kids and be in school. So I have tried to prep the board members on the boards, different school boards, that their challenge is going to be very hard this year and next year. We won't see a recovery in schools probably till the 3rd year.
And that's hard, for sure. And having been a party to cutbacks, first at the school district and then the city and now the county, we are all in for some rocky financial times that affects the future of our community and all of the services that we provide. So how can the community, businesses, employers support our children and our schools at this time?
Well, first of all, let's talk about flexibility. To me, an employer needs to be flexible. If schools are not fully operational, you can't have a workforce back in place if they can't come to work on a daily basis. So flexibility is a very important situation as it relates to the workers and the workforce. The other thing is that employers have to be understanding of that. They may have to rotate their workers in to accommodate childcare. School fills a very big void in childcare, and if you can't leave your house to work because you've got young children, that's a problem. The other thing is we want to create partnerships with businesses to basically backfill where we can for community outreach, where we're losing support for activities for students. For example, for us, we do the transitions programs for districts. Students that are 18 to 22 are still entitled to an education if they have behavioral disabilities or mental disabilities or emotional disabilities. And so that's called a transition program. And these developmentally delayed young adults get an education. Well, they're supposed to be back into the workforce and getting work experience. So we will have to work around that as it relates to many of them get that experience in a hospital. Many of them get that experience in a supermarket. Well, those are places right now that are restricted to us. So we need that type of flexibility to get them back into the workforce. And those are all students of Sonoma County in that category. So we're working very diligently to work with partnerships to create maybe some new environments we haven't used before.
It's a very different world in which we live currently, full of stress and emotion, but also sparks of creativity and enabling parents to do things that they didn't think they would have to do in the education of their children. How is the Office of Education providing resources for parents to give them the sparks of creativity and great distance learning lessons on their own?
Well, if you would go to Sonoma County Office of Education, scoe.org, we have a whole dedicated page for resources for both parents and for teachers, because teachers are dealing with the stress. We have a whole set of interactive video and project activities parents can utilize and or resources they can utilize. So we've set up that page, which never existed 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's there, it's constantly updated. As it relates to health services for students during this time period, we've got an interactive questionnaire for parents, because you still have to get your kid ready for kindergarten. You know, this is going to be a very different year. We have seniors graduating without graduation.
So
And
sad.
it is so sad, but we're looking at doing auto grads so that you can do, you and your family drive up to the school. In the front of the school, there's a platform, there's a small service. You got your own personal cheering squad, but you get your diploma and you drive off. We're looking at a variety of things because there needs to be some recognition. Many of the community have participated by buying graduation signs. And if you look throughout the community, you'll see graduation signs in neighborhood yards. And I would suggest neighbors honor the graduate next door, get a sign and promote the kid next door. I mean, that's the only recognition they're going to get. So I look to the community coming together. We've had teachers do car parades just so that they can see their kids as they drive through the neighborhoods. So it's those type of things. We are providing resources in a variety of ways, but check your district websites as well, because they have really gone to putting lessons online, putting activities online. On our website, we have it by grade level clusters. So a parent that's got a TK or kindergartner, we have a set of resources for you. If you've got a fifth grader, we have a set of resources for you. So look at our websites. I encourage you to do that.
Well, as the grandparent for 2 rambunctious toddlers, I might be looking at your website to see if I can get any hints on working with them or reading to them virtually, because I think that is the challenge for grandparents as well. We don't get our hugs, and often we are at a distance and can't travel, so we have to visit and do some virtual hugs and reading of stories any way that we can to help our parents out.
And
Dr.
that,
Herring,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, you can include that as part of your child's lesson for the day.
Visit
Grandma
with your
times,
grandparent.
grandma times at 11 o'clock. So when grandma comes on and grandma does the reading, and then grandma does the follow-up questions for comprehension, and the child has had their reading lesson for the day.
Fabulous. What a great idea. My toddlers don't sit still through a whole story, but we're getting there.
3 pages a day. There you go.
Dr. Herrington, thank you so much for great information, and I think the community will be very impressed with who you are and the job that you are doing at the Office of Education and the great services and support systems you are providing to parents and districts across the county. So we will emerge stronger than ever, but thank you to you and your staff and all of our amazing teachers and staff throughout the county. We will stay strong, Sonoma County.
Yes. It's Teacher Appreciation Month this month. And it's
Uh,
Teacher
and
Appreciation Week for classified employees as well.
And I think every parent, every family, every grandparent now appreciates those teachers even more. So thank you, teachers.
Thank you, teachers.
Have a great day.